この世のあらゆるものを君と一緒に味わい尽くしたい。
Bedroom. The excessively humid air clings to your skin like stubborn soap foam that won't rinse off, annoying you. Is it about to rain? The grey sky outside the window silently confirms your guess. Your breakfast is placed on the small table by the window with hot steam wafting in the air. You take a bite. It's just the right temperature. You pick up Artem's note and turn on the television, settling into a comfortable position to start your well-deserved holiday. It's been a rough few days for you. Your fever has broken, but you still need rest. I'll be back for dinner. It's a simple message, but you read it again and again, even smoothing out the slightly curled notepaper in the process. It's been a rough few days for me, but isn't it the same for him? And he still prepared all of this for me.
続いて株式市場です。常森グループの東月森夫会長とその妻東月常子副会長の離婚訴訟が波紋を呼んでいます。
The familiar names on the news catch your attention. This is the case that Artem is currently working on.
昨日の取引終了時点で常森グループの株価の終値は2営業日続落し、下げ幅は 20% を超えました。この2日間で時価総額300億近くが失われています。常森グループは今日、株価の異様な変動について声明を発表し、会社と子会社の経営はすべて正常だと表明しました。しかし、市場の反応はざわついています。投資家は総じて、会長夫妻の離婚がもたらす経営環境の重大な変化に不安を禁じ得ないようです。
It's just like Artem's analysis. Then his client. Night wind rushes in through the crack left by a slightly open door, making the white sheer curtains below furiously, like waves pushing against each other. The cursor blinks on the document, signaling the point at which information can be entered, yet you find yourself unable to type anything.
少し休憩したらどうだ。画面を見つめていても決心の陳述書は書けないだろう。
You lean back in the chair, frustrated, your eyes still wandering to the screen as you take a small sip of the flower tea Artem just brought you. Noticing that you seem distracted, he leans in closer.
この案件は君たちが差し戻しにしたことで一番の山場は去ったはずだ。どうしてそう気をもんでいる？
Some time ago, you and Geki worked on a suspected homicide case together, and the suspect received a life sentence in the first trial. Your client wishes to get a more favorable sentence through an appeal, which is undoubtedly challenging. But thanks to your efforts, the case will have a retrial, and the hearing will take place in no time. I suppose it's because we've invested so much into it. It makes us even more anxious about failing at this final step.
君たちの弁護方針は私も財前も見たが何の問題もない。無罪はありえないが判決が変更される可能性は大いにある。
You went through our defense. I thought you'd been occupied with Mr. Bernhard Shannon's divorce and...
初めて担当する差し戻しなのだし、あれこれ悩むのも無理はないだろう。だから、君たちが財前にアドバイスを求めたとき、私も一緒に見ることを提案したんだ。それに、実のところ、私は君が思っているほど忙しくはない。
He leans against the table, sounding somewhat resigned. Even though you barely have enough time to sort out your own thoughts with the criminal trial approaching, you still have some knowledge about the case Artem is handling. The Shining Group is part of the couple's joint assets, and the battle for control over a publicly listed company is sure to be intense. If everything were as easy as he claims, Artem wouldn't be burning the midnight oil every night. And because you understand how busy he is, you can better appreciate his loving intentions behind those simple words.
君は私が問題にぶつかった時、自分から君に助けを求めてほしいと思っているだろう。もちろん、私も同じことを思っている。たまには、私も君に迷惑をかけてもらいたい。
It's important for our couples to make compromises, respect and understand each other, but it's also vital for them to let their guard down and reveal their true selves. You turn your chair completely toward him, taking the hand resting by his side. I know, I'm just afraid that I might get into the bad habit of relying on you too much. Like now, for instance. I know we've already given it up all, but I can only rest easy when I hear you say that everything's okay. It's not that you lack confidence, it's just that sometimes people need the kind of courage that comes from the support of those they trust. So you always wish to be a better version of yourself in front of Artem to live up to his trust.
もう時間も遅い。安心できたのなら、決心の陳述書を書くのは明日にして、今日のところは休むといい。
Despite what he's saying, Artem sits back down in front of the table himself. But what about you? Are you going to keep on working?
ああ、明日は2回目の訴訟前調停だから、資料をもう一度チェックしておきたい。
He opens the files, his brow furrowing ever deeper. Thinking of his support for you, you can't help but ask him more questions. Artem,
どうした？
is something wrong? Maybe we can talk about it. He looks up at you, somewhat surprised. In the next moment, it seems as though something has just occurred to him.
私が悩んでいるように見えたか？この案件は対象が膨大で、分与に関わる財産が非常に複雑だ。
He doesn't delve into details to protect his client's privacy, but the nature of this case is much like what you expected.
東月さんは妻と裸一貫で起業し、常森を共同で設立した。二人がどれだけ心血を注いできたかは想像がつく。彼らが保有する株式に大差はなく、自主的に経営権を放棄するとは考えられない。
But Mr. Shannon is president, and the transfer of management rights must be decided by shareholders through a vote. So, I'm thinking it's something else you're concerned about, right?
常森グループは有名な上場企業で、創業者は彼ら夫婦二人だ。離婚のニュースが大々的に報道されれば、必然的に株価は下落するだろう。そうなると、些細なことが全体に影響を及ぼしかねない。
Yeah, but all of that should be temporary. I'm sure all will be well once the dust settles.
決着がつけば、それまで耐えられるだろうか。
Artem sighed, ending the conversation with an elusive comment, not really seeking an answer from you. Your thoughts are interrupted by the rapid vibrating of an incoming call. Startled, you snap back to reality, noticing that dark clouds have covered the sky outside the French window. Hello, Kiki? Upon seeing the caller, you turn off the television immediately to answer the call. You had been working despite still being sick, so Celestine ordered you to rest at home after you barely made it through the trial. And the verdict of that criminal case was supposed to be announced today, so Kiki had to attend the trial by herself. She probably has the verdict by now.
もしもし、先輩。
Maybe it's just your imagination, but Kiki's voice sounds shaky on the other end of the phone.
判決文をもらいました。
Well, you hear a rustling sound. Kiki is probably opening her folder. You find yourself clenching your phone.
判決が変わりはしましたが、
Before you can celebrate your victory, Kiki delivers the bad news. Although the sentence was altered, it's only a minor change compared to what your client had hoped for. Your heart sinks. What did our client say about it?
私たちにはすごく感謝してくれていますが、やっぱり多少の落胆はあるようです。
Overwhelmed by a wave of exhaustion, you pick up Artem's note again and start smoothing your fingers over it, hoping to get some consolation from this simple repetitive motion. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have stayed at home today.
バカ言わないでください。今日は判決を言い渡されるだけなんですから、先輩が来たって何も変わりませんよ。むしろこれまでずっとこの件に打ち込んでいて、体調を崩しても私たちに隠して事務所に来ていたんです。もっと早く休むべきでした。
But even though you were mentally prepared for all this, you still can't help but feel guilty and disheartened as it's actually happening. You find yourself thinking about different possibilities. Would things have ended differently if you had put in more efforts at certain points?
先輩。
Kiki interrupts you but falls silent again after calling out your name. She always says exactly what comes to mind, so her uncharacteristic silence is somewhat upsetting. Kiki, what exactly happened?
この件よりも先輩に知らせるべきことがあって、左京さんが大変なことになっているようです。
Bedroom. As if to emphasize those words, thunder cracks in the sky just as Kiki finishes her sentence. Your mind suddenly rings from the rumbling. You feel almost as if you're imagining things.
先輩、もしもし、大丈夫ですか？聞こえますか？
I'm here. What did you just say?
左京さんが訴えられました。なんでも。
Heavy rain pours down, the raindrops making harsh sounds as they crash into the window, drowning out Kiki's words.
弁護士の職務規定に違反して、不当訴訟を起こしたとかなんとかで。
She's been very vague about it. Chances are she herself has just got wind of what happened and rushed to share it with you at once.
あまり心配しないでくださいね。大丈夫かもしれませんし、左京さんがそんなことをするはずありません。
While Kiki is still pouring out words of comfort on the other end of the phone, you feel as though you're listening to her through a veil. It feels unreal. In the end, the two of you briefly discuss how to wrap up the case before ending the call. What's going on? Everything was alright a moment ago. You find yourself looking outside. The French window that normally has an amazing view is now covered in mist, obscuring everything. I should call Artem now. I need to find out what happened. Just as you make the call, Artem walks in, soaked from head to toe. Artem! The sky darkened before you could turn on the lights in the room. You can barely make out Artem's expression as he stands in the shadows. What happened?
大丈夫だ。
He walks out from the dark, sounding just like normal, as if nothing had happened.
傘を車に置いたまま出たら急に雨が降り出したんだ。幸いそれほど歩いていないから見た目はひどいかもしれないが実際はそれほど濡れていない。
Oh, okay. You mumble in reply, still anxious about him. Artem watches you, his fingers twitching. It seems as though he wants to take your hand but refrains from doing so for some unknown reason.
先に着替えてくるからちょっと待っていてくれ。それからゆっくり話そう。
In the dim light, Artem comes back to sit next to you after changing clothes. The sofa sinks a little, urging you to lean toward him. Have some warm tea first. I've turned on the heat, but it will be a while before you feel it.
ありがとう。
He takes a sip of the tea, his face blurred in the thick steam.
判決の結果はもう知っているな。
Yeah,
理想とする量刑に至らなかったことで重い挫折感がのしかかっているだろう。辛かったら無理に心に閉じ込めないように。
Autumn, you suddenly realize that Autumn didn't rush back because of what Kiki mentioned. He was worried and hurried back because of you. But right now, he is the one who should be cared for. I'm okay. It's not my first day as a lawyer, so I can handle it. Not being able to achieve what we aim for, or even seeing all our efforts go to waste, is something every lawyer goes through. But I heard someone is suing you. What's going on? You turn to gaze at Autumn, your fingertips touching his as you draw near, sharing the cold from the rain. Autumn doesn't avert his eyes. Instead, a smile of helplessness appears on his face after a short while.
もう知っていたのか。君にどう伝えようかずっと考えていたんだが実際はまだ起訴には至っていない。綱森グループ法務部の弁護士から手紙を受け取っただけだ。あるいは警告状と呼ぶべきか。
The Shining Group? Isn't that your client?
ああ。弁護士の手紙によると彼らは全ての証拠を集め終えたら正式に訴訟を起こすそうだ。告発によれば高額な弁護士費用を得るために依頼人の本心を無視し離婚を煽り悪意を持って訴訟を起こしたと。相手側はこれを不当な手段で業務を請け負う違法行為に当たると主張している。
But why? Aren't they about to go to trial? Why would he suddenly change his mind? And even if we does sue you for investigating litigation, why would the Shining Group's legal department be involved in this? Shouldn't it be between you and Bernhard Shannon? The news you saw earlier comes to your mind the moment you finish your sentence. The answer seems rather self-evident. The Shining Group's stock price dropped drastically after news of the divorce spread. The Shinings have to answer to their shareholders and employees. Are they going to make you take responsibility for all of this like some kind of scapegoat?
ああ。法的に何ら問題のない離婚訴訟を悪徳弁護士が利益のために裏で操っていたことにしようとしている。夫婦関係が破綻していないことを証明するだけでなく、むしろ被害者側となり、市場の信頼を取り戻そうというのだ。しかし、悪徳弁護士一人に揺さぶられるような婚姻関係がどれほど強固と言えるのだろうな。
The rhetorical question, laden with irony, sounds more like a straightforward inquiry in Autumn's calm voice. But Miss Velasquez must also have an attorney. Why did they choose to go after you? Is it because of your reputation?
そうかもしれないな。 常森グループは今逆風にさらされており、これまでのことを覆い隠せるくらい大きなスキャンダルを必要としている。申し分のない家柄で 100% 近い勝率を誇る弁護士が、実は卑劣で利益を得るためにはどんな汚い手でも使う。外面だけ立派で内側はひどいものだとなれば、こういう筋書きは話題を集めるに違いない。
Artem shakes his head resignedly and appears utterly calm, as if he is talking about someone else. But you understand that all the toughness he's showing at this moment is a result of endless betrayal and disappointment. So, what are you going to do next? Are you going to defend yourself?
この案件はかなりデリケートだ。もし自分で自分の弁護をすれば逆効果だろ
Then, who might be a good choice? I don't think Celestine has been very busy lately, or maybe there's some other experienced lawyer at the firm. Artem places his hand on yours, naturally interrupting you.
う。君に私の弁護を頼みたい。
Me? Thunder cracks outside the window. Your chaotic thoughts race in all directions, finding no way out. But how would that be okay? You don't even hesitate before declining his proposal. I've never handled a case like this. I don't have any experience, and you're the one facing trial.
君が本当に心配しているのは経験の部分ではなく私だからか。
Artem shifts slightly, adjusting to a more comfortable position to continue this uncomfortable conversation. You suddenly notice that he hasn't even dried his hair properly, probably because he came out in such a hurry. The strands of hair in front of his forehead dangle slightly with his every movement, as if drops of water would fall from them at any moment. Wouldn't it be better to ask Celestine? Dodging a question with another question also, to a certain extent, implies an answer. She's handled so many business cases, she has a lot of experience, and nobody understands the legal departments of large enterprises better than her.
分かっている。でもやはり君にやってもらいたい。代理人と依頼人の間には絶対的な信頼が必要になる。そして私が誰より信頼しているのは君だ。
But what if I'm not worthy of that trust? Just think about it. That retrial case didn't exactly turn out like I hoped. What if you also... It terrifies you just to mention your recent failure. You can't even imagine how would you cope if the same thing happened to Archer. Fear creeps up your spine, making it harder for you to breathe. You feel as though you're floating on top of the raging ocean, rising and falling with every turbulent wave. You'd better go get Celestine. It put my mind at ease.
いいのか。
The heavy rain rages on like waves that could swallow everything at any moment, lending an inexplicable weight to Artem's words. His every word goes right into your heart.
本当に財前に私の担当になってもらいたいのか。この案件は私の評判や仕事の資格に関わってくる。刑事責任を負う可能性さえある。財前に任せて君は安心できるのか。
Bedroom. Artem's question gets straight to the point, his gaze silently pressing on you.
急いで答えなくていいからよく考えてみてほしい。この件は私の今後の業務に関わるもので、もともと私たちが一緒に決めるべきことだ。
He leans in without making any extra movements, but you still feel a vague pressure. But the pressure doesn't come from him, it comes from your own heart. If you can't trust yourself with his keys, then you'd be even less likely to trust anyone else with it. So you just can't bring yourself to say that you can do it. The atmosphere in the room grows awkward as you struggle to find your words. Your first reaction is to avoid the topic and buy some time. I. Finally, a drop of water gives in to gravity's pull and falls from the tip of Artem's hair, sliding all the way down to his collar, leaving a trace of water on the dark-colored fabric. Though inconspicuous, it offers the perfect excuse for you to get out of this situation. Your hair is still wet. Let me grab you a towel.
待ってくれ。
You feel a weight lift as you stand up, but you forget that Artem is still holding your hands. Artem, noticing your intention, tightens his grip slightly, pulling you in his direction. You almost fall over, but he catches you firmly.
私を一人にしないでほしい。
He says in a low voice, but his grip on you is tighter than usual, with a sternness almost unlike his normal self.
私が不要な気遣いを捨てたとき、一緒に全てに立ち向かってくれると約束しただろ
Artem. When Mr. Highland was harassing Artem, you told him not to worry and that he can show his vulnerable side to those of you who love him. Since he has already met that step, the least you can do is share with him your true thoughts. But we will be facing it together. That's precisely why I'm afraid I won't be able to give you the best assistance there is. At this moment, the two of you are like two vehicles driving toward each other on a mountain road at night. Neither of you has any other option than to hit each other head-on. This case is way too important. I'm worried that I'm not experienced or capable enough to help get a fair outcome for you. It's not that I can't accept failure, but I just don't want you to pay the price for it.
う。それが君の本心か。さっき聞いたとき、君は答えなかったが、実際は私のことを心配しているからこそ、この案件を受けたくないのだな。でなければ、自分の経験不足をいつまでも理由にしたりしないだろう。
Just as you thought, despite your efforts to conceal it, it's simply impossible to hide anything from Artem because he knows you too well.
もし当事者が私でなければ、同じ状況で君はきっとこう言うだろう。自分は経験不足だけれど、誰にでも初めてのことはあると。君はこういう挑戦に尻込みするような人ではない。困難に立ち向かい、たとえ経験に乏しくとも実践で学んでいく。それでこそ君だから。
He raises his hand, the back of his fingers slowly brushing across your cheek without any suggestive meaning. It's more like a confirmation that the two of you are within arm's reach. But that hypothesis is pointless because you are the client. It's about your interest. This is the most important factor here.
では、私を単なる依頼人と考えてみたらどうだ？
A few more drops of water fall, but Artem doesn't pay them any mind. His collar grows wet, sticking to his neck.
君の専門的な助けを必要とする人だと、そう思ってくれればいい。
What do you mean?
もし失敗を恐れてためらっているのなら、弁護士の立場から依頼人の損得だけを考えるといい。依頼以外のことで左京静馬という人が被る負担は先生が考慮すべき範囲に入らない。
It's the first time Artem has called you something like this. It sounds so distant that you almost find it strange.
私の婚約者も 私が全幅の信頼を寄せる弁護士に任せたいと思っているに違いない。この世界でその弁護士だけが私の喜びも悲しみも自分のことのように思ってくれる。そのために奮闘し全力を尽くしてくれるのだから。
Do you really trust that lawyer that much? You can hear your voice tremble amidst the pitter-patter of raindrops on the window.
ああ、自分を信じるのと同じくらい彼女を信じている。そして何よりも勝算のないことは好きではないんだ。彼女にならかけられる。私を勝たせてくれると知っているから。
There's an uplifting energy in his voice, fearless and full of anticipation, as if his awkwardness and distress from a moment ago were never there. He watches you, making sure that you can understand everything he is trying to see.
ただし、この先は必ずしも光り輝く道ではないだろう。今以上に激しい雨風にさらされるかもしれない。抜け出せない泥沼にはまって落ちぶれ、誰からも相手にされなくなる可能性だってある。だが険しいと分かっていても、たとえ身勝手と思われようが彼女に聞きたい。すべてを承知の上で彼女は私のために戦ってくれるだろうか。
How could he call himself selfish? Before he asked you for your help, he had given you a way out and explained all the risks. Artem's gaze is filled with a deep trust. He waits for your answer in silence, and you find it impossible to say no. Or more precisely, you don't want to. You don't have any other choice. After all, it's a most fortunate privilege to have the opportunity to protect the person you love. I am willing to, Artem. I'll do my best to win this case for you. Mist spreads on the glass panel behind Artem, turning the scenery outside into a dark, blurry shadow. Study. You decide to follow Artem's suggestion and be nothing more than his attorney in this case. Now that you and Artem are on the same page, you're eager to start preliminary preparations as soon as possible, so the two of you head to the study. I've accepted your case, but I still need you to explain what happened in detail. I'll take some notes. You and Artem sit at the opposite ends of the table, creating a physical space between you, attempting to distance yourself from all emotions and worries. But it feels as though this situation, where both of you are assuming such unusual roles, is stirring a strange feelings in your heart. Maybe you just need some time to get used to this. Without thinking more on it, you decide to give the current case your full attention.
ああ、わかった。
As you open your notebook and are about to write down the date out of habit, the ink in your pen appears stuck, only leaving incoherent marks even after you scribble hard on the paper.
これを使うといい。
Artem notices the situation before you speak, handing over a spare pen from the drawers. The boundary between the two of you wavers with this gesture. Okay.
先日当月森尾さんがテミス法律事務所を訪れ、離婚案件の依頼を私にしてきた。しかし離婚の件が大きく報道されたことで常森グループの株価は下落、相場が乱高下した後、彼は考えを変え訴訟を取り下げた。そして悪意を持って訴訟を起こしたと私を訴えてきた。
Artem's words are simple and precise, almost devoid of all logical conjunctions, ensuring that his account is as objective as possible. Artem, do you think what happened was Mr. Shannon's idea, or was it a proposal from the Shining Group's legal department?
どちらでもなく、副 会長の常子さんの仕業だろう。常子さんは離婚訴訟の被告だが、彼女の協力があったと踏んでいる。でないと、常森の弁護士から届いた手紙に、ああいった文言はないはずだ。離婚する気持ちがなかったと否定するには、二人の合意が必要だからな。もし、当月森尾さんに自分の妻を説得する手立てがあるなら、私に離婚訴訟の依頼をする必要はない。
In that case, it would appear that the Shining Group is actually controlled by its vice president. After years of practice in the business world, she must have accumulated a wealth of experience and a number of different tricks at her disposal, which means that each of her next moves will directly target Artem's vulnerabilities. Your heart sinks even further, but you still manage to muster a few comforting words to ease the tension. At any rate, these kinds of cases are fairly tricky in terms of the law. I haven't researched any legal precedent yet, but from my perspective, it'd be very difficult to win unless they have clear evidence that points directly to your alleged wrongdoing.
もし訴訟に至れば、彼らが勝訴する可能性は低い。自ら身を滅ぼすだけだろう。
Yes, but if we have thought of this, I'm sure the legal department of the Shining Group also has this in mind.
ああ。だが、もともと彼らの目的は訴訟にあるわけではなく、自分たちに有利な世論を作り上げることにある。世論を利用して裁判を起こせば、私を完全な悪役に仕立て上げられるかもしれない。実際の訴訟よりも、利益ははるかに大きくなる。
A trial. What is typically a word for fairness and justice has turned gruesome in this case, tainted by viciousness and desire.
白木さんのことを覚えているだろうか。すぐに彼と同じような人が大勢出てくるはずだ。私の依頼人を自称し、様々な罪名をでっち上げるだろう。例えば、私の父が、ある訴訟で私に便宜を図ってもらうよう、裏取引をした可能性があるとか。それから、私の母が、学会における自分の影響力を利用して、私のために障害を取り除いたとか。勝率 99.9% も水増しされた数字だと言われるかもしれない。こういった話は多くの人に好まれる。
Awesome. His excessively calm tone has far surpassed the boundary you both agreed upon. You can't help but call his name, hoping that he stops. These hypotheses and conjectures are sending shivers down your spine. It's even becoming difficult to keep jotting down notes. This is clearly not how you're supposed to act or feel in front of a client. Then we should start monitoring public opinion right away. If we detect falsehoods like this, that strange feeling begins to surge. You struggle to suppress it, hoping to remain rational. We can both collect evidence in time and prevent rumors from spreading.
ああ。後で法的責任を追及するときにも的を絞りやすい。
Alright, then I'll get in contact with Celestine now. You take out your phone at once and briefly explain your thoughts to Celestine, who soon gives her approval.
それから、こうしたいのだが。
You keep staring at Artem while he goes on about countermeasures against potential tricks the Shining Group might pull, finally realizing what it is that you've been suppressing. How is he so calm and rational even in the face of such a sudden catastrophe? Anger, indignation, and sorrow, the complicated mix of emotions you feel for him surge in your heart, threatening to engulf you. Despite all your talk about pushing boundaries to a safe distance, you suddenly realize that you've already crossed the line. You've been immersed in your worry for Artem for so long that you never truly pulled yourself out of it. bedroom. Perhaps Artem has sensed that you are becoming emotional. Your conversation in the study ends as he calls a stop to it. Afterward, the two of you attend to your respective work and retire early to the bed. But you have a hard time getting quality sleep as you're worried about Artem's problem. Noises of the endless rain jolt you awake from your shallow sleep. You turn around only to find that Artem is missing beside you. Artem?
ああ、起こしてしまったか。
The light is still off, but Artem quickly walks over upon hearing you call to him, as if worried that you might not be able to find him. No, but are you heading out? As he gets closer, you suddenly notice he's changed into outdoor attire and put on his glasses, though even the glasses can't conceal the fatigue in his eyes. He nods, then stops straightening his clothes to pull the blanket back up over you after it had slipped down when you sat up.
どうも眠れないから少し資料を読もうとしたんだが、財前から世論モニタリングで妙な動きがあると連絡があって、どうせ寝つけないのなら直接事務所に行った方がいいと思ってな。その方が君も静かに眠れるだろうし。
Artem must have also been worried about the case this whole time. You reach out to adjust the undershirt whose shelves he hadn't pulled out. Artem is always meticulous. He rarely neglects detail like this. Alright, then I'll go with you.
だが外はまだ雨が降っている。君は体が。
My fever is already gone, and it's kind of stuffy at home. I could use some fresh air outside. Artem freezes for a moment, but quickly recovers, smoothing his shirt out in the places your hand goes over.
よし、それなら一緒に行こう。
If the Shining Group is truly behind the change in public opinion, heading over to the firm might not make a difference, but neither of you says this out loud. Instead, you and Artem have reached a tacit understanding not to leave each other alone on this rainy night. Artem's office. After rushing to the firm, the two of you conduct a detailed analysis of the situation and discover that some paid accounts have indeed been purposefully guiding public opinion overnight. Luckily, Celestine found out about it in time, and she's very skilled at handling such situations, so she mitigated the attack without breaking a sweat. Now that everything has been sorted out, you and Artem volunteer to wrap it all up so that the others can head home a little early after working all evening. The two of you come to Artem's office to sort the files. You gradually turn on the light in front of the file cabinet. It's not particularly bright, but it's adequate. I didn't imagine the Shining Group would act so fast. Thank goodness we were prepared for it. You find yourself looking outside the window, perhaps because you're still feeling a bit down. The rain has been going from morning to midnight, overwhelming the city's sewage system and putting a pause on its dazzling nightlife. The usually bustling streets are quite desolate at the moment, with all the shops closed. Wow, this feels so strange. It's not the first time you've worked with Artem at his office all the way until midnight, but the streets rarely appear so bleak outside the window.
何がだ?
The view outside. It's always been so well lit down there, no matter how late we were working. I think it's the first time I've seen everything so dark outside while we're the brightest building on the street. I thought I knew this office so well, but now even this room looks kind of strange. Artem gestures for you to sit down under the light. Upon hearing your remark, he glances around the room before returning his gaze to you.
ではここでさっきの続きを話そうか。書斎にいた時、君は上の空だったな。
That's because I realized it was impossible for me to look at these kids objectively. As Arthur mentions what happened, that feeling of powerlessness quickly begins to surge again, tightly engulfing you. You avert your gaze, somewhat frustrated, as the faintest silhouette of Artem on the glass is fragmented into countless pieces by raindrops. I don't know if my feelings will get in the way of my professional judgment or affect you.
君は私のことを心配してくれているだけだ。そんな風に申し訳なさそうにするものじゃない。
Artem walks over the shattered fragments coming together to form a complete picture of him.
あるいは最初から間違っていたのかもしれない。私はあんな提案をすべきではなかった。
What? Why? When I think about it, I probably didn't react in the most professional way. It was far beyond the scope of a lawyer's responsibilities.
だが、プロ意識や聞こえの良い職業倫理などという言葉よりも、何より重要なのは、自分の当事者のために最も有利な選択をするということだ。この評価基準から見れば、君以上にうまくやれる人はいない。
He adjusts his glasses, looking like a teacher patiently helping a student in a way that's not at all irritating.
君はこの案件を知ってから今まで、彼らの言うようなことを私がしたのかどうか聞きもしない。だからこそ、相手が訴訟ではなく、世論操作による戦いを起こそうとしているという判断を素早く下せたんだ。
Of course, I didn't ask you. I don't believe you would ever do something like that. You have enough reason to trust him, both because of your feelings for each other and as his colleague at work and partner in his career.
だが、私たちは弁護士であり、証拠を重んじなければならない。
I'm proof of your integrity as a lawyer. This office is proof, and every file here is proof. You fight to the last moment for every case you represent, travel to foreign lands to help those in need, and work day and night to pursue justice. Your hard work and perseverance are things that no fabricated attack can ever take away. You should have said those words while you were in the study, but you refrained from doing so to honor the so-called boundary.
君のその信頼はいつも一緒にいる私たちの関係性から来ているとは思わないか？それはつまり私たちがずっと剥がそうとしていた当事者と代理人という立場ではない部分だ。
His voice isn't loud, but it still carries weight in this quiet room. Maybe it's because in this space, everything he brings up feels more concrete and vibrant.
私たちはこの点を見落としていたようだな。そうした付き合いこそが今の私たちを作り上げたのだということを。だから書斎でやってみた時はあんなに難しかったんだ。今の私たちはもはや分かちがたいほど一心同体なのだから。
His words touch you more deeply than you let on. It seems you've also learned how to keep your composure from Artem. In certain moments, this might not be considered such a good habit. But it's not too late to realize that now. There will be moments when we lose our way in such a heavy storm. But look, as long as we know where the line is, we'll get closer and closer to where we're trying to go. A single street lamp stands in the rain on the pitch-black street. Its light might be faint and somewhat obscured by the cold wind and harsh rain, but it's always there, unwavering. Artem, you're like that light for me. You walk up to him and take his hand. It actually isn't so hard to get closer to him. But he clearly isn't content with the distance between you two, so he pulls you into his arms as you draw nearer.
ぴったりの言葉を思い出した。
What's the saying? It feels as though there's nothing else in the world in front of you, just you and Artem nestled close in a corner where the light still shines.
ペルアスペラアドアストラ。ラテン語のことわざで様々な役があるが、私が気に入っている役は、この苦難の旅を経て、ついに栄光の星に至らん。
Artem calls your name in a low voice, sounding somewhat disillusioned amidst the rain.
距離感だの、講師のけじめだの、そういうことを気にするのはもうよそ。この果てしない嵐を乗り越えて、無事に空の彼方にたどり着くには、肩を並べて戦わなければならないのだから。
Artem's office. The storm seems to have let up a little. Droplets of water slide freely across the glass, some merging together while others gradually disappear. It's already midnight by the time you return all the files you took out. Finally, it's all set. Huh? With your work done for now, you stretch, feeling refreshed after overcoming the so-called distance and boundaries. And behind all of this cheerfulness,
お腹が空いたか？
Artem stopped organizing the files briefly to put on the jacket hanging on the back of his chair.
当然だな。一日中何も食べていないのだから。
It's probably because I'm more relaxed now.
そういえば、私も少し。夜食でも食べようか。
Artem always follows a healthy routine with regular meals. He rarely snacks at night except when he's pulling all-nighters with you. Alright, what do you want to eat?
そうだな。鍋はどうだろう。雨の日だし、温かいものがいいだろう。
Huh? But where will we find an open hot pot restaurant at this hour on a rainy day?
大丈夫だ。家で自分で作ろう。食材もあるし、すぐできる。
Artem has always been really good at getting things done. He's already made all the arrangements as he speaks and leads you downstairs. Meanwhile, you start to feel confused after a few seconds. Is this what people normally do for a nighttime snack? Cooking up a hot pot at home? Dining room. Artem, are you planning on making a hot pot with 2 different soup bases? As soon as you and Artem get home, the two of you head straight to the kitchen to make preparations without even bothering to change out your clothes.
ああ。私は辛いものはあまり得意じゃないが、今日は雨だから辛いスープも体が温まっていいだろう。どうして急にそんな顔？
It's nothing. It just feels like we're back to our familiar selves again. You've long grown accustomed to Artem's care and how he thinks of every last detail, so it's natural that you felt uneasy about the deliberate distance. And with the Artem you're familiar with, saying the familiar kinds of things he usually does puts your mind at ease. The water is almost boiling. Should we get started? The red and white broth starts bubbling in the electric pot, filling the air with its alluring aroma.
ああ、洗った具材を運んでくれるか。
After arranging the vegetables, meat, and various meatballs in an order you like, you and Artem squeeze into 2 adjacent sides of a table corner despite the abundant space available. And in the middle is a hot pot he whipped up at lightning speed. The white steam begins to swirl, quickly clouding up Artem's glasses. I feel like we don't often have hot pot together. How strange. You draw out the sentence on purpose to give him his cue, and he promptly picks up on it.
確かに不思議だな。 なぜだと思う？
I think maybe it's because that's who you are, Mr. Wing.
キャラ設定とは？
Just consider this. With hot pot, you could burn yourself from eating too quickly or choke on the spice. You could be in quite a pickle if you're not careful, which isn't befitting of a top attorney.
本当にそうかもしれないな。
You were only joking, yet Artem nods after giving it some serious thought. But that seriousness is greatly undermined by his foggy glasses and the way his face has turned red from the steam. He looks far from the image of the top attorney you're talking about.
私は時々真面目すぎることもあるかもしれないが、君の前ではただの静までありたいと思っている。何の肩書きもなく。急に鍋が食べたいと思ったのにはそれもある。熱くて辛い食べ物の方がすぐに距離を縮められるという印象があったから。
For a moment, you're at a loss for words, the meatball slipping from your chopsticks.
おっと、私はまた。
No. I don't know what it's like for anyone else, but I like how serious you are. Because that's you. Artem's favorite beef rises to the surface of the spicy pot, so he picks it up and puts it in his bowl. Thinking of how he reacted every time he had something spicy, you can't help but feel nervous. Don't be so quick to eat it. You might want to try it first and water it down if it's too spicy.
大丈夫。許容範囲だ。
Really? But your face is very red. You expose him mercilessly. Artem pauses on his way to grab something from the non-spicy pot and opts for another slice of beef coated in spicy oil instead. Seeing his pained yet determined expression, you try to think of ways to stop him whilst stifling a laugh. Suddenly, an idea strikes you. Artem, I think I know what to do with our keys. Artem looks up at you, his glasses fogging up again in an instant. Tammy's negotiation room.
左京先生はこの弁護士さんが私の離婚の弁護士を務めてくれるとおっしゃるの？ご好意はありがたいですけれど、私は初めから離婚するつもりなんてありませんわ。
Early the next day, you and Artem rush to the firm and quickly schedule a meeting with Celine Velasquez, vice president of the Shining Group. She's dressed in exquisite and professional attire and wearing an enigmatic smile.
左京先生の不当訴訟の話をするためにいらしたものとばかり思っていたけれど、そうでないのならこれ以上話を続ける必要はないわね。
副会長は私が本当に不当訴訟を起こしたかどうかよくご存知のはずです。私をスケープゴートに市場の信頼を取り戻そうというこのやり方はあなたの発案でしょうから。
Years in the business world have clearly hardened her. Celine Velasquez's surprise from hearing Artem reveal her plan so suddenly disappears in an instant.
左京先生、誘導尋問は無駄よ。
Don't worry, Miss Velasquez. This conversation is not being recorded and we never had any intention of doing so. We are very earnestly hoping to be able to cooperate with you. You take out your and Artem's phone and place them on the table as a token of your sincerity.
私と協力したい。でも、あなたたちは何をかけられるのかしら。私の手にあるのは左京先生の生涯のキャリアだけれど、見合ったものが出せるの？
Velasquez's expression softens slightly, but her posture remains relaxed, as if she has everything under control.
常森グループの経営権はあなたにとって十分に見合ったものですか？
Upon hearing this, she straightens almost immediately, a clear sign of interest. Her reaction convinced you of the feasibility of your plan. It appears that Artem guessed correctly.
率直に言ってもらって結構よ。私たち商売人は回りくどい話が好きではないの。
当月森尾さんの代理人をしている間に、常森グループの年俸を深く分析しました。会長の森尾さんよりも、副会長のあなたの方が、会社の設立、経営の双方について、多大な功績を残していますね。心血を注いできたからこそ、挫折は見るに忍びなかったのでしょう。そこであなたは、自分から森尾さんと和解することを決意した。同時に、不当訴訟の角で私を告訴するという方法で、企業イメージを回復し、損失を減らそうとしました。
A look of appreciation appears on Velasquez's face upon hearing Artem's concise analysis.
道理で勝率が高いわけね。あの人もまるで見る目がないわけではなさそうだわ。訴訟を取り下げるようあの人を説得して正解だったってわけね。
今回は説得できたでしょうが、次はどうでしょう。夫婦として長年連れ添ったのですから、彼がどんな人物かはよくご存知でしょう。彼との付き合いは長くありませんが、考えを柔軟に変える方であることはわかります。そして、計略に長けた方では決してない。私は弁護士のモラルに反することは何一つしていませんが、他の人がよからぬ企みを抱いて乗ずる機会を見つけないとは限りません。
Artem has his hands propped on the table, looking no less intimidating than Velasquez.
その時、もう一度彼の気を変えられる自信はありますか？仮に彼がまた今回と同じ選択をしたとして、世間は同じ手口を繰り返すあなたをまた評価してくれるでしょうか？
それは。
Seeing that silent Velasquez has started to waver, you add a few more words. Miss Velasquez, at the end of the day, you're just temporarily diverting attention from the real problem. It's like drinking poison to quench your thirst. This will ultimately harm the shining group you care about so much. Mr. Wing was never your enemy, so why turn him into one? And this enemy would hardly just surrender the inscription against you in the end. Some things only need to be hinted at. If you're too clear and straightforward about them, it might not be as effective.
そうだとして、なぜ高名な左京先生ではなく、この弁護士さんを私の代理人に選ぶ必要があるのかしら。
森尾さんはすでに訴訟を取り下げたとはいえ、私は彼の代理人弁護士でしたので、微妙な立場であることに変わりはなく、いい選択とは言えません。それに、あなたに直談判するというのは、他ならぬこの先生の考えですので。
Dining room. There's a theory that smells can trigger memories, meaning that smelling specific scents can immediately evoke associated memories. The same applies to the smell of hot pot and the vibrant memories it brings. Artem, I think I know what to do with our case. A battle of public opinion is a war of attrition. No matter how well prepared we are, all we can do is defend from a passive position. In that case, it might be better if we strike first.
こちらから打って出る？常森グループと交渉するということか？
Since you're discussing something serious here, Artem turns down the flame a bit, the white fog on his glasses gradually dissipating. Exactly. You said earlier that it was the Vice President's idea to sue you, so is there a chance that we might talk to her in person?
難しくないと思う。被告が被害者と会いたいと思うのは道理だろう。だが、彼女に何というつもりだ？十分なリターンがなければ、彼女が考えを変えることはないだろう。
I think her marriage will come to an end sooner or later. Even though she and her husband agreed to work together this time to save the Shining Group's stock price. A relationship isn't that easy to fix once it's broken. Like you said, it takes the joint effort of two people moving in the same direction. What Artem said to you at the office prompted you to think of this solution. Now that they're already moving in different directions, they are bound to part ways. I think the last thing she wants is for the Shining Group to get tied up in this mess.
確かに、私たちを相手にするよりも、根本的な不安要素を切り捨てた方がいい。彼女を説得して、トカゲの尻尾切りをさせるつもりか？
I believe that a person in charge of a highly successful public enterprise can't have such a limited vision. Instead of suing the lawyer with the highest winning rate, it'd be a much better deal to turn him into a powerful weapon.
おおむね賛成だが、私は彼女の代理人にはなれないかもしれない。先の離婚訴訟は取り下げられたとはいえ、私は森尾さんの代理人だったのだからな。このまま法廷に出れば、相手の代理人にとっては格好の的だ。私たちに不利になる。だから、君がやってみないか？常子さんが私たちの提案に同意してくれるなら、他のベテラン弁護士を推薦してもいいが、これは君にとってもいい機会だと思う。
Artem grabs your hand. He did the same thing this morning while saying something very similar. But at that time, there was a chill running through his fingertips that wouldn't warm up. Now it's replaced by an endless supply of warmth. Maybe it's because of the hot pot. Sure, if it's okay with Miss Velasquez, then I'm more than happy to take the job. You squeeze his hand in return, feeling the boundless courage that he has given you swell in your chest. But it's okay even if she doesn't agree, and we still have to face the Shining Group's accusations. I'll face it with you until the very last second. Neighborhood downstairs. The negotiations with Miss Selena Velasquez last from morning to evening. Even at the last moment, you are still unable to address all of her concern. When you say goodbye, she promises she'll get back to you soon, but you have a feeling she's not going to refuse. A relationship that's long been on its last leg should end promptly. It's the only way a person can move forward with their head held high.
返事を待っている間に、こちらの考えを整理してみよう。できたら常子さんに送ってみて、彼女にもっと自信を持ってもらうんだ。
After having a simple dinner, neither you nor Artem hurried to go home. Instead, the two of you chose to head downstairs and go for a walk. The heavy rain that assaulted the city for the entire day has finally stopped temporarily, so there are more people than usual strolling around the neighborhood. Okay, let's do it together. As you and Artem hold hands, the night breeze slips through your palms, carrying with it the cheerful cries of children playing and laughing nearby, yet the coldness is unable to dispel the warmth in your hands. Watching a child balancing on the curb, you can't help but feel tempted to try it yourself. You step onto the high curb, steadying yourself with Artem's hands. On one side of the curb is the muddy flower bed, and on the other side is a platform about half as tall as a person. And you only realize after getting up there that it's by no means an easy task to walk along such a narrow path.
気をつけて。
Artem's hand freezes in midair as he reaches out to pull yours. Sensing his hesitation, you squeeze his hand firmly. I don't blame you for not Sometimes a girl wants to walk in a place like this simply because she wants to hold hands with the person she's walking with.
そういうものなのか？
Yeah, because that's what I want. You stop as Autumn turns to look back at you. It's quiet now. The kids who were playing just a moment ago have disappeared to who knows where. Autumn, I'm glad you chose to share everything with me this time and insisted that we face this together. And I'm even happier that you reached out to grab me when I was hesitating and on the verge of running away from it all. Can we keep doing this in the future? We shouldn't push each other away, even if it might be difficult to share our thoughts sometimes. The willingness to rely on each other, the request to stay at each other's side, they don't need to be expressed with words, because you can always see it in our actions. He smiles, his eyes gleaming as if reflecting the neon lights of the entire city.
それなら。
Autumn suddenly tightens his grip, pulling you in his direction. Despite his firm grip on you, the sudden surprise still makes your heart pump wildly until you regain your balance, tightly catching his collar.
ではこういう行動から私の気持ちがわかるかな？
He pulls you closer when neither of you can pull away or step back until your souls merge into one. The smell of dampness still lingers in the air. If another storm is on its way, then there's nothing to do but stay and get soaked. Dining room. Autumn,
どうした？
it's a sunny weekend and you and Artem chose to stay at home. Miss Selena Vasquez contacted you one evening shortly after your meeting, agreeing to all of your proposals. Then you started working day and night. Even today, you devoted the entire morning to looking at different files. It's only when your stomach starts protesting again that you suddenly realize it's already lunchtime. As you enter the dining room, you see Autumn standing in front of an open fridge, leaning halfway out from behind the door.
資料の準備はどうだ？お腹が空いただろう。何か作ろう。
I'm almost done. What are we having for lunch? You slip under Autumn's arm and join him in front of the fridge, inhaling the aroma of cool fruits and vegetables.
昼からなんだが、また鍋でもしようかと。
He places bottles of sparkling water one by one into the fridge while packing up a can of some soft drink from the counter next to him. Great! I could really use some hot pot to treat myself after all that work. Did you order all of this?
ああ、最近は二人とも忙しくて、冷蔵庫が空っぽだったからな。ちょうど時間ができたから、中身を整理して補充しておこうと思ったんだ。
Let me help you. We can also see what we should put in that hot pot. Smiling, Autumn suddenly presses the bottle of sparkling water, already slightly chilled from the fridge, against your cheek.
君は午前中忙しかったんだから、ゆっくり休んでいなさい。こっちは私がやるからいい。
The slightly cool bottle quickly warms against your cheek. At that moment, you suddenly realize how close the two of you are. And neither of you find it unusual, probably because you're both grown accustomed to these moments when your scents mingle. Your fridge has cool lights, but for some curious reason, Autumn's silhouette appears warm and slightly blurry under the lights.
今日はどんな味がいい？
Anything's fine with me. You can decide.
では、今日は全部辛いスープにしてみようか。辛いものは食べているうちに慣れるらしい。
That fine, but it doesn't matter if you have a low tolerance for spice. As you two exchange some casual banter, Artem gradually leans in and bows his head as if he's about to do something. But at this very moment, the fridge door starts beeping from being open for too long, interrupting the romantic atmosphere. Artem stops right where he is. And the next moment, both of you burst out laughing.
やはり一度試してみよう。この世のあらゆるものを君と一緒に味わい尽くしたい。
The fridge door clicks shut. If you two weren't together, your life might be a peaceful path without any surprises. But without him, both peace and surprise would lose meaning, because everything would be boring and linear. You don't say another word. Instead, you reach out to grab Artem's collar. You want to be close to him and even closer now.
もしもし、もう車か？ならよかった。裁判が終わって、君も肩の荷がやっと下りただろう。判決はどうなった？審理が非公開で、一緒にいられず残念だ。となると、君は勝利を勝ち取っただけでなく、約束したことも成し遂げた。君はできると信じていた。これまでの努力も無駄ではなかったな。ああ、君の勝利を祝うため、晩餐会の準備をしている。大丈夫、固いものではない。私たち二人だけだ。え？いや、鍋ではない。晩餐会の内容は秘密にしておこう。そう簡単に当てられてしまっては少し悔しいからな。もちろん、これはお祝いのためだけではない。多忙な両親とはそう会うこともないし、夫婦円満の秘訣を学ぶ機会などないだろう。でも君と出会い、共に過ごしていくうちに多くを学んだ。例えば暮らしには時々サプライズが必要だ。それも二人の仲が深まるほど。単調な日々で退屈させないよう、たくさんの体験をさせてあげたい。それに、私も自信を持てるようになりたいんだ。楽しませることに。ああ、焦らず。気をつけて。サプライズは待つのも楽しみだから。